So, it was supposed to be the takeover of the century. Newcastle United were supposed to ditch current owner Mike Ashley and become the richest club in the world. Consortium, led by someone lucky enough to reject a marriage proposal from Prince Andrew, Amanda Staveley, which was backed by the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund, was supposed to take the Toon Army back into the good times and bring all the world-class players back to Tyneside. Instead, an insane chain of events will ensue, which will engulf each of the takeover partners, leaving the Reuben brothers, the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund, and Amanda Staveley facing individually chaotic situations, which will culminate in Amanda Staveley ending up in the exact same flood of tears which she had left Prince Andrew when she rejected his marriage proposal. Well, we need to talk about the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Fund's ill-fated takeover of Newcastle United. It's official. The Saudi royals have pulled out of the deal to buy Newcastle United. A final twist which has left lead financier Amanda Staveley in tears. Now, as someone who has a history of working on mergers and acquisitions, I can tell you it's fairly commonplace for both sides to blame each other when such talks end. And in this case, there's no surprise that sources close to the Saudi royals are claiming that Mike Ashley decided to renegotiate terms at the very last minute. That statement from the Sovereign Wealth Fund should be taken with caution. Let's face it, the Sovereign Wealth Fund had a lot of motive to pull out, and it's fair to say their pull-out game is strong. Miss Davies from school, you're right, I am childish. Anyway, back to it. I'm gonna get onto his motives, so hold on to that. Mike Ashley also had his motives too. Initially wanting a quickie sale, given the fact that he was afraid his under-investment over the years was finally going to catch up with him this season and cost Newcastle United their Premier League status, thereby reducing the value of his assets. I should actually point out the fact that the takeover has now failed. Mike Ashley has just made £17 million in respect to the money that was deposited as part to ensure the takeover will take place. That's all circumstantial. Well, let's get into the insane facts. Despite Saudi Arabia's human rights record being brought up across multiple media sources as a stumbling block for the takeover, Newcastle United fans had pointed out time and time again over the previous 4 months about big clubs across Europe who had owners approved with less than satisfactory reputations. I know what you're thinking. If that wasn't the main reason why the takeover bid failed, well, what was? And here's the real reason why the Saudi Arabian takeover of Newcastle failed. It can be summed up in one simple sentence: Saudi Arabia's bitter war with Qatar. And I'm about to give you some context. Premier League loves to protect all of its right holders. I mean, you can understand. They give the Premier League billions to be the most generating league in the world. And in this case, Qatari sports giants beIN Sport objected to the takeover and lodged an official complaint with the Premier League on the grounds that the Saudi Arabian government simply didn't respect their rights to be the sole broadcaster of Premier League in the region. For a few years now, a Saudi-based company called BOutQ began to illegally stream the feeds of beIN Sports. Premier League deemed this as a pretty easy fix. All they had to do was to convince the Saudi government to prosecute BOutQ and take the rights of beIN Sports. But the decision reached in a court case just over 2 weeks ago was what pretty much killed this takeover and left it dead. As opposed to backing beIN Sport as the rightful owner of the rights, Saudi government doubled down and decided to totally ban out beIN Sports. And the reason for banning beIN from Saudi Arabia was the fact that they felt that they were controlling an illegal monopoly. You see, over the last few years, beIN Sport had simply bought the rights to pretty much every single sporting event going, and the Saudis felt that this was totally unfair, that there should only be one rights holder for the whole of the Middle East. Another reason the Saudi court gave for the termination of beIN Sport's license in the kingdom was actually the fact that beIN Sport hadn't given customers the option of actually what they wanted to watch. They simply said if they wanted to watch any sports, they had to buy the Premier League. Deemed this as further evidence that beIN Sport had been acting as a dictating monopoly. Now, Amanda Staveley, who has great contacts in the Middle East, tried to sort out the situation and smooth things over using all of her contacts. Unfortunately, Amanda Staveley has actually been involved in a pretty bitter battle with Barclays herself. Amanda Staveley is currently suing Barclays PLC to the tune of £720 million. Now, the amount, according to Staveley, is in respect to the fact that Barclays approached her during the 2008 financial crisis. So, as you can see, what was supposed to be a pretty straightforward takeover has actually led to a chain of acrimonious decisions that has led to the Dubai royal family pulling out of the Newcastle United takeover. What's quite clear is the fact that Newcastle United fans were quite excited about the Dubai takeover, and you can't really blame them given Mike Ashley's under-investment. But as opposed to becoming the richest club in the world, well, they're back to square one, right under Mike Ashley, and arguably his grip over the club has actually been stronger, and he might actually want a little bit more money for Newcastle United. Do let me know what you think of the takeover and what you would like to see happen next. Let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing, and as always, until next time.